Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Come along and welcome to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Wednesday. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you as always. Jim Coyle with you. We'll be joined by Bob Kravitz, Kyle Neddenriep, and Aaron Matus is going to join us today as well. Working on something big for tomorrow night. We'll let you know about that later. But plenty to get to. Another visit set up at Indiana, this time on the basketball side. Days of Our Lives renewed for seasons 57 and 58. I saw Mike DeCourcy put out, which I chuckled at because I remember as a kid my mom watching that show. That show is older than I am. It's a TV show that is older than I am. That's crazy. Hope you're having a good day. Everybody getting out and about. I saw something that has to be great news. And now I forgot what the exact reference was, but it was, Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly in Indianapolis. I think it was July 1st. It may have been July 12th. I don't want to get the date wrong, but in July, they're reopening business. No masks, no vaccination requirements. I would think you'd want to get vaccinated, but not everybody does. But they're reopening 100%. That's good news for sports fans. For this fall, for this winter, I don't think that in certain places masks are going away. This being one of them, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be surprised if you're not having to wear a mask. I don't know. Assembly Hall is going to be a tricky beast because Monroe County is their own entity. As our friend Aaron Matus joins us. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing this morning?
I cannot complain. Mr. Been Around the World, IU grad. From when did you graduate?
2004. Old man here.
Oh, yeah. God, dude, I wish I could. Thank God we're not in the same place. Got underwear older than you. I was just talking. What was it I was just talking about, John, that made me feel so old?
Your
rodeo
days.
Microphone.
What?
Well, you were talking about the Days of Our Lives.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Days of Our Lives was just renewed. I saw Mike DeCourcy pointed out. Days of Our Lives was just renewed for seasons 57 and 58. Do you know what that show is?
Yeah, I have. I remember I had a. What would you call like your parents get like a summer girl, when when you're off for the summer that drives you around for your baseball practices and whatnot when I was in middle school.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a summer girl.
A nanny. I don't know it didn't feel like a nanny. She was there to get me to baseball practice. But she watched Days of Our Lives and it was torture for me, I remember.
My mom did it. And I remember that. The sounds of the hourglass. These are the days of our lives.
55 seasons, huh?
56 or 57 and 8 coming.
Hey, credit to them.
That's mind-boggling.
Survive in advance, Jim. Survive in advance.
Hey, a package of 350 sports rings were intercepted in Indianapolis. Fake sports rings. So I pulled this up, but I just happened to see this and I was like, wow, they were all kinds of. So that tells you, man, when you're buying stuff, you better be so careful. They have just gotten into faking everything. 330 of these. and they were everything. It was U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers in Indianapolis seized the shit. But last week, hundreds of counterfeit championship sports rings, 330 fake rings destined for a store in Texas. So I guess don't buy stuff in Texas.
So they're selling, quote unquote, get you a Super Bowl ring type thing, but it's just a counterfeit.
Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL. There was 117 Lakers rings, 73 Dallas Cowboy rings. Patriots only had 17.
That's why I'm always a little hesitant of the sports memorabilia when you buy it.
Yes.
And my tragic story there is I used to go out when I was a kid. I used to go down to the Metrodome, and I would have ball players sign baseballs, and I had some good ones. I had, it was a lot of your 90s players, but you had your Derek Jeters, Nomar Garciaparra, Mark McGuire, Frank Thomas, had some good ones. And when we lived in Colorado, we got broken into, and it all got taken, all of it. And, I just remember having conversations with the insurance people and the police saying, like, well, what do you think it was worth? And I was like, it was priceless, man. Like, I handed the ball to Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
I don't want to
because
buy
that price goes up.
Yep.
What's it worth today? I have a similar story, but it was more of my own making. When I was younger, I worked for CBS and all these different places that I could work for. And even when I was a putz at WOKY in Louisville, there's the one opportunity that I did not force, and I should have. Pete Rose. I could have gotten a Pete Rose that I know would have been a Pete Rose because I would have handed it to him back, because anything else is a straight guess on him.
Yep.
But I had Darryl Strawberry.
Ooh.
when he was with the Dodgers. I had Jack Buck and Tim McCarver.
Good one.
I had Johnny Bench. I'm trying to think. Who was the great Dodger that married the UCLA basketball player? Dang it. He was a pitcher, did the TV. I can't think of it. I'll think of it. But Don Drysdale.
Oh, Drysdale. Of course.
Had Don Drysdale on a ball. I had a bat, the Billy Hatcher from the Cincinnati Reds I gave, because when I was working for CBS, I would have CBS stuff, like the banners that we would have. I would have all that stuff. I would hang it up, so I would have extras. But we use that stuff to barter these players, getting hats, getting gloves, and they're like all about it, man. My kids will love this. So Billy Hatcher, man, he gave me a hat, gave me his batting gloves that he wore that day. He gave me a bat. Well, the year before, he had set the record for hits in a World Series game, or a World Series at 8. And I'm like, dang, it's pretty cool. And then later he was a coach. And I ended up losing all that stuff.
You lost it?
Well, it was at a place where I was working. And then when I went back to get it, it was magically gone.
Oh, someone found it.
Yeah, they found it and discovered it. But so it's I would get sick if I thought about all the stuff that I've had over the years that I did not take care of.
Yep. I hear you on that.
Let's see. Alan says, any insight on the kid transferring from USC per the possibility of IU landing him? Is that in football?
Football. Yep. Running back, I believe.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. Well, I saw that was a mention, and I actually got to speak with Tom Allen yesterday. We had a one-on-one where it was just off the record. Just talk to him, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit. But he talked about a lot of different stuff. Not that, of course. I didn't ask him about that. But yeah, I'm going to look into that. That would be not surprising, number one, because one of the things I asked him about was Delon McCullough and coming on, and that has done like 4 different things at once. I guess what I'm trying to it just covers so many different things: coaching, recruiting, indirect recruiting. There are guys that are going to come here that may not even play for him, but just because he's here. I mean, for God's sake, the guy was in the last 2 Super Bowls.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it brings some just immediate. I use the word legitimacy, not like Tom Allen needed legitimacy, but I think you know what I mean. I mean, it just brings some clout to the coaching staff right away, and by all indications, from what I've heard and talked with him and seen, he's just a class guy. And I don't know how long he'll be at IU. I think he's got some aspirations, but good. That's good. That's the kind of guy you want on a staff. And the fact that right away his 3 boys are on, and hey, they can play too. We'll take that up in Bloomington. I'm sure Tom Allen's excited to have that. But he has made an instant impact, and I think will help the recruiting outside of his room. And he'll also help the program outside of his room just because of the experience he's had, like you mentioned, postseason runs in the NFL.
Yeah, and when we did our first Zoom with him, it was hilarious. Were you on that Zoom? I can't remember, but yeah, he's got behind him. He had an Emmy on one side and the Lombardi Trophy on the other. The only thing he should have been wearing was he should have been doing this and letting those rings flicker in the light. Those big fat Super Bowl rings. Well, of course, he probably doesn't have the one, but that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good Zoom call to place to a recruit. Of course, that's going to go away, but that carries some weight. All right, the Zooms are not going away, but recruiting visits are coming. We've seen a football visit coming for Indiana basketball. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the visits are coming back. Man, they haven't had that in forever. That's face-to-face contact that we all know how important that is, whether even doing what we do. It sucks. And yesterday when I talked to Tom, I thanked him so much for doing this, even though it's not getting to meet in person. I said, just getting to talk to you one-on-one instead of being a guy in a room that asks one question and that's it, because you can't develop anything. That's the thing that's been lacking so much, I think.
You're a square you're a person in a square too on most of these people's screens. You know, they just got the gallery view up, so they just see, you know, some of these IU calls that we've been on, especially when stuff was really hot on the basketball thing. There's 55 plus people. You're a real small square on that Zoom call. So yeah, I have certainly missed the face-to-face contact. You know, in my career, I really succeeded as a feature storyteller. And part of that is sitting down across from someone and letting them kind of forget they're being interviewed and tell their story. And there has been virtually none of that since last March. Yeah,
that's whenever I have any people on to do interviews that I'm not familiar with, it's rare that I write questions out. I know what I'm going to start with, but I let the conversation take me where it takes me because I don't know what their answers are going to be. You know, if there's certain important things I want to hit on, of course I'm going to hit that. But I let it be a conversation, not an interview. It just, let's have a conversation, make it comfortable. But then there are certain people at certain times where I will have 12 questions written out because I want to make sure that I hit because it's that important. But generally, I'd just like it to be a conversation and make it feel comfortable. And I don't know, this makes it easier or harder for some that aren't accustomed to it because they're not in front of a person. This might make it easier for them.
Yep. Yeah, I think that there's probably some of that too. And I don't think that it's going to completely go away in terms of the recruiting trail. We heard a lot of people talk about that at the beginning of this. Do you think you'll use some of this technology moving forward once we're out of this pandemic? And every coach I heard talk to said, you better believe we're going to start doing some of it and getting more coaches into these Zoom calls so the player and family can meet them. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to advance to a point where you want to get them on campus, especially IU's campus. What a selling point. And it'll be nice to see players able to do that again. It's good for them too.
I'm already late for a break. I did see this tweet this morning. I don't know that that's true, but it says Coach Woodson had asked Trey Galloway to cut his hair. I don't think I'm buying that one. But Dwayne says, good morning. Tim, last time I watched Days of Our Lives was 20 years ago. An actor shot a guy, 20 years turned it on, and the guy is still on the floor. There you go. That's pretty funny.
That is a show move.
There you go. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new or man, I hope you do something. I'd love for you to do this whenever you could, if it allowed for you.
You just let me know. I'll have to start following along a little closer. I was like, man, I don't know how.
You know what? Wednesdays right now would be great. Dylan has just been missing every Wednesday.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Aaron, were you a regular guest on Nick Coffey's show?
Yeah.
I think I filled in for his producer one day when y'all were talking about the movie Friday. I think that was the day that I was in there and you called, but I could be wrong. Does that ring a bell to you?
It sounds like a topic that I would get going on.
Okay, yeah, because that was back in like November, October. But whenever Jim said you were coming on, I thought I recognized your name.
Yeah.
See, we need more of that on here. We don't have enough of that.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you got to be careful though. I'll go off on tangents, Jim. They got nothing to do with sports.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's how you build a bigger audience. Day. Man, that's a. I watched last night. I was watching Deadwood. I was on a Deadwood kick last night. I love that series, man. You ever watched it?
I have not seen it. I'm watching. I'm trying to get caught up on Friday Night Lights right now, which I feel like I'm like one of the last sports fans to never have watched that show.
What? Wow.
Not the movie, the show.
I know. You should feel bad. Even I've seen that thing.
Yeah.
The only reason is because I was dating a girl that was like 14 years younger than me. She introduced me to it. It was pretty good.
It is good. I mean, I really like the show. It's funny how conveniently every awkward situation plays out. Like, you know, any the wrong person's in the grocery store at the right time every single time to make drama.
Yeah.
Kyle should be joining shortly, but I'm going to go ahead and bring us back.
Kyle Neddenriep.
You're looking for a relaxing night with a family, meeting for lunch, hanging with friends, or on the golf course, Sam's Restaurants has multiple locations and something for everyone. Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. It is Tuesday. I had to stop and think for a second.
Nope.
I've been, dude. You what do you have? 2 kids?
3.
I'm laughing. How old are they?
Jim, I'm laughing at you because you had to think about it, and it's not Tuesday.
Well, that's an every week thing if you're on here very often. That is normal. Trust me.
Either that or I got it wrong and just brought my trash out because I think it's Wednesday.
No, it's like the last 6 weeks and the next 2 weeks have just hey, there's Kyle Neddenriep joining us. How are you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing?
I cannot complain. Aaron Matus is on with us today. Just sitting here chatting about me not knowing what day it is normal because they just run into the next one. Last week I was my daughter she's 18. She's going through all the senior stuff. She's playing soccer, still in his club soccer, but it was prom. Rivals had a 150 camp in Indianapolis, and she lives in Madisonville, which is Kentucky, 30 minutes south of Evansville. So that was just running all over the place. And there was the All-Star game that I really, really wanted to go to over at Lawrence North and couldn't make it there. I don't know if you had a chance to go to that, Kyle.
No, we actually had I was hoping to. We had family pictures my wife had been setting up. It was supposed to be Sunday night, and then the rain, we had to reschedule it for Saturday night. It was outside, so I ended up, we did that instead, which is great. Family pictures is fun. And, yeah, I saw the results and whatnot, but I wasn't able to get over there Saturday.
What's going on with you? Obviously, it slows down a tick right now. Not a lot, never stops, but it slows down. Obviously, if you can get family pictures in, that's enough where you can take a breath, because that's about all the time you usually get.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on some, some different type stuff, taking some time to work on. I did a unified sports story this week on a kid from Carmel, Sky Simpson, who's a Down syndrome young man. He's a senior in high school, and kind of wrote about him, but also the about how unified sports can kind of change everybody, not just the kids who are directly involved, the kids who are also the typically developing kids who get a chance to meet these kids who have disabilities. And hopefully in the long run, into adulthood, they're used to being around kids with disabilities. They're used to, if they're in a position to maybe hire them for jobs, they understand that, that they have things they can do in the real world. So, I think one of the best things IHSA does is unified sports. Having been to the state flag football that they put on starting, I think it was 2017 or 18. Track has been going on since 2014, I believe. It's one of the coolest things that they do. And I think from the big picture standpoint, like I said, it's about, understanding that they have a purpose to fill and can do things into adulthood. And I think that's, just being around that track. I went to the track meet last Wednesday night, and there was a Hamilton County meet, and you just come away feeling good about, sports and what unified sports can do for those kids. So, wrote about that for today. Just other. I'm doing a little league. Warren Little League is shutting down, or they're merging with Irvington, which Warren has had Little League for 60 something years. So planning to go out, do something on that. As well as recruiting things. Wrote about Joe Strickland from Brebeuf, who has a defensive end who has a official visit scheduled for Purdue and IU, as well as he's got several others in the mix as well. Penn State, he's going to take an official too. So, but the fact that the in-state schools are in the mix for him, that's a big deal. And he's a 4-star defensive end. Those don't grow on trees. So, if IU or Purdue can get in there with him, and they're in a fairly good position, that's a big deal. So, got lots of things on this still working on. John Broughton from Pendleton Heights, coached 40 years at Pendleton Heights football, passed away early. I think it was late Monday, early Tuesday. So that wrote about that yesterday too. But yeah, lots of things going on still.
Kyle, this is Aaron Matus here, formerly of WDRB, I guess sports free agent down here in Louisville right now. I worked the high school prep beat in Colorado for quite a few years, and we did some unified stuff. I don't know if I've ever seen bigger smiles or better celebrations than the unified events I've covered. Is that what you've kind of seen when you've gotten out to the track meets and whatnot?
Oh yeah, I mean it's awesome, and I cover a lot of recruiting stuff, or have in the 20 years I've been doing this, and and that part of it's fun too. You get to see these great athletes and what they become, and but it's kind of a rat race, and there's a lot of things go on with regular sports that are kind of shady. Kind of, we all know it. I mean, we all hear about it or write about it, or it's a lot of money that goes into these athletes. But unified sports it's kind of like the very essence, I think, of what sports should be. And which is to help you develop into adulthood, and I look at these kids who get a chance to, because unified sports, as I mean, they have, the typically developing kids who are with them and working with the kids with disabilities. And I think those kids get as much out of that as the kids with disabilities do. And that's the that's the beauty of it to me is, Nick Osborne, who's he's a good athlete for Carmel. He his brother's quarterback for the team. He runs on the relay team for the unified sports team. He throws shot put. But he's a big time academic kid. He's going to Kentucky, but he's going to try to keep doing, whether it's Special Olympic stuff or, help out in some regard. And, I look at him as like, man, what a great opportunity for him, to be involved with that. So, yeah, I mean, it's really cool. The more I do that, the more, I want to do more of it and tell those stories about those kids who are involved with that. And, I know it doesn't get the clicks or whatever that, but it, I think it opens people's eyes to maybe who don't realize that's going on out there. I didn't even know. I didn't know a few years ago, even what unified sports really was about. You hear about it, but it's different to go and watch an event and see it in person and kind of get the real, feel of what that's about. And it's a really cool thing. I'm glad the IHSA seems to be at the forefront of that. And I'm glad, I think we're pretty lucky here that they have so many schools involved and so many kids get these opportunities. When I was growing up in the 90s, going to high school, they didn't have any of this stuff. I remember the kids at our school, they were kind of the kids with disabilities. They were in one hallway and you never really saw them, you very rarely anyway. So they weren't part of the regular programming at school like they are now. So, I think that's great. It really is. I mean, it sounds cliche or whatever, but you kind of get reinvigorated by, seeing those unified events.
Well, not only that, as I'm trying to educate myself on it and looking through it, I've got to do something which I can't believe is give IHSAA props because it looks like they are a leader in this. This is not going on everywhere else. And, the IHSA can use all the positive publicity they can get because with the transfers and all that stuff that has gone the other way, this is incredible. And obviously could be a model for the United States. Are any other states even doing this?
Yeah, it's picking up steam. I covered it in Colorado.
You mentioned
it, and Kentucky's got it, but not widespread. I think one of the, either Bullet East or Bullet Central was recognized nationally for their unified program. But they do it in bowling and cheerleading and basketball's big, track. So it's really neat. It's all about inclusion. And I think just to echo what Kyle said, like any of the able-bodied athletes, they get as much out of it. They if you interview them, they say this, I did this in an off season, so to speak. And I get more out of this than I do probably the kids with the disabilities, or even more than I get out of my regular season. If they're waiting for their spring season to run track or whatever it might be, they get more out of it than their best sport, so to speak.
Now, who are the coaches, Kyle? Are these the teachers at the schools or other people coming in to coach and assist in this?
Yeah, it's not not what you would say, if you're the varsity track coach, you're not doing this also. I mean, it's a different coach. In Carmel's case, Jamie Stevens, she was the coach for the Carmel unified track team, but she also has other assistants. And, one of the assistants I talked to actually works with, kids, I can't remember the name of their program exactly, but works with kids with disabilities basically. So she, I talked to her for the story and she, she has a relationship with these kids. So when she goes out there, they know who she is, there's familiarity there. So, I think ideally you have teachers who are in the building with these kids who also are involved with the sports teams, the unified sports teams. So, and track is really cool. I've covered the flag football, like I said, but track is cool because really there's something that anybody can do, and they have whether it's relay events or shot put or whatever the case may be. There's something there's something for everybody. I think with flag football you're kind of somewhat reliant on your teammates to get you the ball, or, you have to do something within the team framework. Track is cool because you got, individuals working for a team, but there's something anybody, can go out there and do and be part of. So, I think that's, and I would love to hopefully get out to the state track meet. I have not done that yet, cover the unified state track meet. I think that's, it will be at Ben Davis this year because they always have it wherever the normal track meet is, which is usually IU, but IU's not hosting track this year. So I think it's at Ben Davis this year. But yeah, I mean, just to echo what Aaron said, I mean, it's a great event. You see so many people smiling and having fun, and it's just it is. I mean, yeah, the IHSA gets and rightly so in some cases, gets a lot of criticism. This is totally different, though. And this is something Bobby Cox, I talked with him a lot about, growing this over the last few years. This is something that was very high on his priority list when he was commissioner for the IHSA. So tip your hat to him. I mean, they've done a great job with it. They deserve credit for making this an important thing in our state. And, I think a lot of kids should be, as time goes on, there's going to be thousands of kids who are positively impacted through unified sports, which is great. I mean, it opens doors, and inclusion is important in our society. It goes without saying, but it needs to be said, and this is a great way to go about it.
What else you got going on? I know it's a time where you try to get some personal time in, but like I said, the clock doesn't stop. Things are still going on. What's up next for you?
Yeah, like I said, I was working on and I haven't got to actually working on something here this week too, that, Center Grove, public address announcer, Jason Mueller, he's long time, worked there, and he's pretty bad, shape physically, cancer. So I was working on a story on him, but also, like I said a little bit earlier, Warren Little League, and kind of making this a kind of a bigger picture story on, rec baseball, or what we used to know as Little League baseball and what's happened to it. Warren, like I said, it's been their Little League program's been going on for at least 60 years. I have to go back and look exactly how long it's been going, but they're going to basically shut down. They're merging with Irvington, but basically will shut down as a program. So I'm going to try to tell the story through a team, a coach that I know who's coaching in that system, and going to go work on something on that, but also kind of build that into a bigger picture of how travel baseball is really taken over, and these kids who normally would play at least up to 12 years old are you're kind of either doing nothing or you're doing travel as far as baseball goes, and kind of see where that reporting takes me. So looking forward to doing that probably for sometime next week. And, also keeping up, I'm curious to see what's happening in June with, high school basketball events as far as the open windows for recruiting. So we'll be working on that. The Charlie Hughes shootout is scheduled for the end of June. That'll be an open period for college coaches to come watch. So we're kind of back into the recruiting, in-person recruiting, which is good. So there'll be a couple of those events in June to kick things off. June 1st is basically the day where that begins again. Kids can take official visits to schools, and coaches will have a couple open windows to come out and recruit as well. So, yeah, a lot of it's like just kind of a lot of miscellaneous things going on, and it's kind of that time of the year for that sort of thing.
Kyle, I have a question for you, and I don't know if the answer is I don't know, that's acceptable, but curious. If you got the sense that any of the local colleges did better in the pandemic of adjusting and recruiting and really outperformed or I won't ask the underperformed because that puts you in a tough spot. But if you get the sense talking to high school coaches, players around the state, if anyone really adjusted well and survived maybe better than others in this shutdown recruiting period we've had for, I guess, more than a year now.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I would think, I know anecdotally talking to Joe Strickland, it's yesterday or 2 days ago. I feel like the in-states, as far as football goes anyway, I feel like the in-state schools have done a pretty good job of, staying in contact with these kids. The tough thing, for a kid like Joe, it's like he's really interested in Penn State. He's been to Penn State, but he went, it's late January. There's no games going on. You're kind of walking around campus just on your own. And, there's no real, you can't get a real feel, that way. So you're taking a lot of virtual visits. You're talking to people on the phone. I know kids I've covered, like Austin Booker last year committed to Minnesota without even being on campus. He'd never even been there before. But there was at that point, no real option to go there. So, that's the hard thing to me. And I don't know. I think time will tell who's done better with this. And, we'll know here in a few years, I guess, when we look back at the recruiting classes. I think it will add to the number of kids who transfer. I know we're at a crazy time for that anyway, but if you're a kid who's never been to campus before, it's going to be hard. First time you get there, that's your first impression. So that's a tough position to be in. And, I think it will only lead to more transfers probably, but it's going to take a little time. I'm glad that, kids can actually get on campus now and visit officially. But a lot of these kids have never been to a game. They weren't able to go to games last fall. So you don't get that in-person experience. I think schools that are maybe farther away from recruiting bases that need to get kids on campus to see a game situation. You think about like Penn State, they're not, they're a little bit away. Although Pennsylvania is a great recruiting state, they are a little bit tucked away from major metropolitan areas. I would think a place like that, if you go to a game there, you're going to come away with a pretty good impression. So, I think places like that may be hurt, that have great in-game experiences, may be hurt a little bit more than others.
Well, Kyle, I can't thank you enough as always, man. Thank you, especially for that great story. I'm looking forward to following up on that and doing more with that. That's great to follow. But always make sure you give him a follow at Kyle Neddenriep and at the Indy Star. Be a subscriber if you're not. I am. Kyle, thank you, brother. We appreciate you.
All right, you bet. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
You bet. Hey, we've got more coming up. I want to talk about Stephen Carr, very possible coming to Indiana, Aaron, running back from Southern Cal. Philip Kowski, basketball player, has set a visit. So we'll talk about that and more. Aaron Matus joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Indy Moore Honda, coming back right after this.
Whether you're looking for a relaxing night with a family.
Wow.
Jim, you need me to hang out for a bit? I got to get my son to preschool here shortly, or childcare, I guess is what it is, since preschool's over now.
Let's see. You got 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'll do 10 more. That's fine. I got a little more coffee here.
We'll
have time to get a refill?
Oh, yeah. That'll take us right to Bob Kravitz. Bobby Kravitz. Oh, mercy. All right.
Hey, by next week, I'll have the transitions ready, so you don't have to keep doing the back from the golf club and all that stuff.
Yeah, go ahead and recut the open. Do the open.
Yes.
You just need to keep practicing. That's all it is. It's practice. It's practice.
Yeah.
It's doing it. It's making it sound.
I'm gonna ask Matt Taylor tomorrow, whether it's an email or while he's on here and we're not on the air. I'll ask him if he can send me clips of himself. I still need stuff from him.
But yeah, man, if you could do every Wednesday, I'd love to have you on. But,
Yeah.
I know that could change at any time.
Yeah, I got to figure. Obviously, it could. This job thing gets figured out. We'll know more. Hopefully, could get figured out here in the next week.
Yeah, I want to. Well, but some of the things you talked about sounded kind of cool, actually.
The two opportunities I have right now that are taking me seriously are both would be pretty cool. I mean, one of them's in sports still, one of them's out, but working for Salesforce would be a great opportunity.
But the other one, and what was the other one?
It's a company called Athletics, doing the youth baseball, youth softball around the country.
Dude, that would just require traveling, huh?
Yeah, in the summers. I think it would a lot. But
See,
they want someone to tell stories, and I'm like, I can do that.
All right, we're coming back.
Yes, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, of course, on this. It's Wednesday. No.
You got it right this time.
All right. Got it Wednesday. Right. I'm thinking about too many different things. John, I think that it was yesterday we met with Coach Todd Yeagley. If you could pull up, you'll have to look at it off air, but it's probably about 4 questions in where I talked to him, but I didn't tell you before, but pull that up if you get a chance. Indiana, of course, preparing for title number 9 or the quest for number 9. This is their 21st College Cup. I've been talking about this all week. How freaking incredible. That's 43%. That's mind-boggling. That's just nuts because it is not during the 60s, in the 70s. It started, but it has continued. And it has continued into a time where all other programs are equal and all other athletics are equal. Because you see, like St. Louis in sports or in soccer still has the most championships with 10. But I think they won those in the 60s and early 70s when there were like 6 teams competing for a national championship. Not like today. Indiana going for number 9. But to do that, continue it, it's mind-boggling. And they are still producing that talent. And he has to turn that over. I mean, his goalies, Celentano, there's no way he's going to be here after this year. You know, it's like a 2-year run. So that's difficult. And it's a mix of – there's not a lot of international players, Aaron. I mean, a lot of times soccer, you'll see guys that have a lot of these guys that come in internationally. Illinois, Indiana, California, you may have 1 or 2, but it's a great mix of just American kids.
Yeah, I mean, you know, first of all, a couple of years ago on one of these runs, they had a goalie by the name of Trey Muse, who at the time was supposedly one of the best goalies in the country. You lose him, and what do you have? One of the best goalies in the country again. I mean, they're getting one after another.
Trey was originally from Louisville.
Yep. And then he left early to go start his professional career because that's how good these IU teams are. A lot of these kids have options, which is going to happen, you know, every year when you have this kind of quality. But you're right. I mean, a lot of times people rack up championships or, you know, Final Four-esque, whatever, in their respective sports over a period of time that doesn't match what IU soccer's done. And they've done it over different coaches too. Now, I understand it's same last name, but that doesn't always translate necessarily when you lose the guy that started everything and then you get someone right back that can kind of lead the program and keep the excellence up. It really is impressive. And I loosely follow. I admit that for sure. I follow along during the regular season scores and final scores and whatnot, and I really jump on once the NCAA tournament starts. So it's been incredible. And when I was, you know, you asked me when I was in school, I was 2000 to 2004. Those were some bleak football years, let me tell you. And there were times where I honest to God, I felt like there was more buzz around men's soccer than there was men's football at times.
Well, there probably was.
Yeah.
Because they were still winning, as they always do. And looking forward to that continuing.
You know, we haven't talked about, Jim, the most overrated sports day of the year is today. The NFL schedule release day.
I've been so busy, I've forgotten about it.
I got a alert on my phone that said something about breaking down the week 1 opponents, and it was the quickest disregard I've had when we start talking about the schedule 5 months before the games are being played. We used to blow that day out of the water when I worked in Colorado because they're so Broncos crazy, and every year I would just roll my eyes.
Yeah, it's anything to make it roll along. But we have some plenty to talk about. Let's see. Philip, Indiana basketball getting a visit. Kyle Filipkowski is going to be the first visit, I guess. First visit Indiana's had in, is this 2 years?
It's a long time. I don't know exactly the last time they had one. I imagine they had some unofficials at least in the winter time of 2020 before things shut down, but it's crazy how long the recruiting dead period was extended. I mean, I get the caution. You don't want people in and out of campus like that, but it is nuts. So that's crazy that he's going to be the first in that long. And he's I know my buddy Rick Bozich is high on him and was really hoping things progress. And they seemingly are with him, but I think as quickly as momentum can build with a recruit, it can deflate even faster. We've seen that with some of the guys that Archie Miller went after that were IU leans and they were in good shape until they weren't.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that has to do with what they were seeing on the court. I really do. I mean, you would have to be pretty unbasketball intelligent, unsports intelligent to not have watched and really questioned what was happening.
Yeah.
As a player, as a coach, as a lot of things, but that's not the case anymore. You know what's there. You know the opportunities are there. You know the resources that are there. Filipkowski is definitely he's up. He's a Northeast kid, so that's you don't see a lot of kids from the Northeast come to Indiana. Biggs, Thomas Bryant, but I think that was just because it happened to work out with that. But this is a big 6'10" kid. But Mike Woodson, that's someone that could work just with a kid like that. And I think he knows that. Dane Fife had been recruiting him when he was at Michigan State, and Dane does a great job in recruiting. So that relationship had already begun and it continues. So he said he was impressed with Coach Mike Woodson. He was showing him some of the clips of his players from the Knicks, which was cool to see how they run certain pick and rolls. He talked a lot about Steve Novak and Julius Randle. He had really enjoyed that. So having Mike Woodson talk about all that and show all that, man, that just carries weight. I mean, a lot of weight because this is where they want to be.
Yeah, and I think that is obviously very intentional. Let me show you some clips of my time in the NBA, son. Sit down, and let me show you what I think you can do with your game. I think that is smart use of where he's been and a good reminder of where he's been for a player that comes to Indiana or is considering coming to Indiana and wondering if it can help him get to the next level. Well, look where the head coach has been.
Yeah, and that is not going to be a problem. The problem is just going to be, when we keep talking about it, is just roster management. Because that is going to be such a freaking every year. You are never going to know. You used to have a very good idea. Of course, there's always a surprise here and there, but you had a pretty much dead on idea what you were going to need. Now you're going to have a good idea plus double that maybe.
Yeah, and I think that we all say this, that yes, at any given moment, one of your players can decide to leave and go, but it works both ways. So you can pluck someone that quickly as well if they're in the portal. So what I do think it means is there's likely somebody on staff. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know if it's an assistant coach. I don't know if it's someone off the bench that had better be very well versed on who's in the portal, who's considering going in the portal, even though you can't talk to them until they're in the portal. And having a real good idea of who Indiana might be interested in should a position surprisingly open up. That is going to be a new aspect for somebody on basketball staffs across the country.
Yeah, and the recruiting also, how difficult is that going to be? You put time in to a kid, but then this transfer portal, you have to balance developing and getting. There's going to be talent that is already there. If you need a point guard and you've got a kid that you've been recruiting, but all of a sudden a kid becomes available in the portal that is a veteran, that's a scorer, that is exactly what you need right now, and you've got one scholarship.
Yep.
I mean,
and that's tough for 18-year-old kids, and I think, I always think of those Iowa State teams that Fred Hoiberg had. He succeeded with transfers, but that was with sitting out a year transfers. And I remember he adjusted well to doing that and had some really strong Iowa State teams. I think about the early UK Calipari years. He was one of the first to be like, we are going to lean into this one and done thing. And it had been a huge success for him. So the staff that figures this out the fastest is probably going to be in position to really go on a run. I wish I had the answers because I certainly wouldn't be sitting here looking for a job if I was, Jim, but I don't have the answers. But I'm telling you, somebody's going to figure this out, and they're going to have a really strong run of college basketball until everyone copycats.
This is the only thing that saves John Calipari. I said 2 years ago that as soon as the one and done ends, he's out. He's done. Because all he does is out recruit people. And then, of course, it just coincidentally, when the Nike train ended after the FBI investigation, that train seemed to run a little short quicker than normal. But anyway, I said as soon as that rule goes into place, he's done. This may save him.
I think so.
I don't think he's a very good coach. I think he out recruits people, gets the talent, out talents you, and that's it. And with that rule out, as you saw last year, that was a serious issue. Transfers, if you can get Mike McClung or whomever, they're CJ Frederick and those guys who are just, gee whiz, come on, man.
Yep.
It's kind of aggravating, really. It's aggravating a lot, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. But you would think that maybe a rule in place, you can only take so many transfers. In Europe, you can only have most programs. You can only have 2 Americans on a team over there. So maybe
I think it'll be modified. I don't have the answers. I've heard somebody suggest, maybe after 2 years you can have the one-time transfer just so you're not dealing with a whole bunch of freshmen who didn't get their playing time right away. And, I was like that, I could see that. And the caveat was that if a coach leaves, then you don't have to stay. If your coach leaves, you can leave with a free one-time transfer. But otherwise, after your sophomore year, then the one-time transfer kicks in. And I do think some modification would help because it does feel like the pendulum was so far one way and then they just all the way to the other side. And it's just kind of like the Wild West right now. And I'm all for kids having options. I mean that. But it does seem a little bit crazy. Or the portal window needs to be that developed. If you're not in it at a certain time, then you got to wait till next year.
That's July 1st. I think that is. I think they have a July 1st deadline for that.
Have they established that now?
I think so. I think that there is a July 1st deadline. But yeah, it's but that's what the NCAA does. They stick their head in the sand, stick their head in the sand until they get drug out by their ankles, and by that time, this happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Muppet Mark Emmert, if he hadn't have done that and stuck his head in the sand and fought this and fought all of this stuff, name, image, likeness, and all, now it's getting shoved down their throat in a way that's probably going to damage college athletics, I think. It's too much, too soon, too fast. They're not going to be able to handle it. It's just going to cause a bunch of crap. Had they tried to take little bites, could have been manageable.
Yeah,
they kind of
let the pressure build behind the dam for too long, and then it busts open, and it's a mess. That's how this feels to me a little bit. I think some modification will be needed, but I am also pro, 18-year-old kids getting a chance to rethink things because, I certainly needed to when I was that age.
You and me both, brother. Well, man, I cannot thank you enough. Hopefully we can do this a little more often and look forward to it. But have fun with the kiddos today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You bet, brother. My good friend Aaron Matus joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. The wonderful Bob Kravitz is joining us next. And look forward to that as always. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. We're back with Bob right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new... Hello, Robert.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing dandy. How are you today?
Good. Hey, just to let you know, the 26th, which is 2 weeks from now, I've got to get a little medical procedure, so I won't be able to come on.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, and I hope all goes well.
Yeah, just a basic colonoscopy.
Oh, we can do that on the air if you want.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be great radio.
That was Chick McGee. Didn't Chick McGee do that on Bob and Tom?
I think he did.
Yeah.
I think he
Yeah.
did.
I can remember his yell. I remember. Ah!
I hope they put me out. I don't remember.
I guarantee you, I'd say you have to put me out.
Oh, yeah. So if you want to talk some Pacers or something, that's cool, or whatever you feel like.
Well, the Pacers got all. Yeah, the Pacers got. What did I just write down about them?
Well, they just they're in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, that's what it was. The play-in. They won. Have they won like 1, 4, or 5 or something stupid?
They won, I think, 3 out of the last 4. They're playing a little bit better ever since the little blow up with Goga Batadze and Greg Foster.
What was I looking for?
Do I have a minute to go grab a Coke?
Absolutely.
All right.
Jim, we use the Psalms segment for him too, right?
Yes.
It's for Kyle, him, and then Chris and Matt.
Yes.
Gotcha. Wanted to make sure I had that written down correctly.
Dude, I can't get a hold of that dude. I owe them for 2 months worth.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring this back.
Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Whether you're looking for a relaxing night with the family, meeting for lunch, hanging with friends, or on the golf course, Sam's Restaurants has multiple locations and something for everyone. Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday. Jim Coyle, joined by Bob Kravitz, as always, from The Athletic. Robert, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Cannot complain. It's apparently it's spring. We're slowly but surely getting there. It's creeping into the warmer temperatures, but I guess it's good enough to play golf. There you go.
Yeah.
How have you been shooting it?
Wildly inconsistent. Everywhere from 84 to 104.
I wish I was out there yet. I'm aiming towards June. June 1st is my goal.
Okay. Well, don't ask for any golf tips from me.
Yeah. I'm going to need plenty. Lots going on, even though it's kind of calming down at least, but still you got visits being scheduled now. Guys, the kids getting to go out and visit schools. There's Indiana football's got a scheduled visit. Indiana basketball just got a scheduled visit, and I'm sure that's going on everywhere. But that's huge. I just saw Eli Lilly in July opening up the plant. No mask required, no vaccination requirement. So good news as we head to the summer and hopefully thinking about fall and sports and all of that?
I'm so looking forward to fans coming back. You know, I didn't realize just how much I missed the soundtrack that they provide. You know, and I miss going to the games. You know, when I'm covering Pacer games or IU basketball games, I'm watching on TV and then flipping open my computer and doing the Zoom interviews. And it's just, you know, there's no human connection. And, you know, in our business, we're trying to find differentiated stories. We're trying to find unique angles. And that's really hard to do when everybody is basically getting the same stuff. So I'm really looking forward to a return to normalcy for, you know, obviously a lot of compelling reasons. But in my small corner of the universe, it's going to make a big difference in the way we do our jobs.
Not only that, and I'll be honest, just life. As much as some of those people don't want to see me or vice, like it's not seeing people is just not fun. Not seeing I had a one-on-one with Tom Allen yesterday via Zoom, but that was nice because it was just us getting to do it. And I told him how much I appreciated it. It's not the same, but it's at least having that conversation was important. But yeah, nothing. The one-on-one, looking somebody in the eye, reading their body language. You can't get that on a Zoom.
And the thing too is, you know, just as an example, after the whole Goga Batadze thing with Greg Foster with the Pacers, it would have been nice to go in the locker room and ask Goga what happened. You know, where are you guys at? And, you know, they don't make them available on the Zoom, which I understand, but it gives the teams the power to really shape the narrative. And that's not what we want. We as journalists, we would rather shape the narrative. And so it gets frustrating, but life is returning to normal. I took my wife out. Today is my anniversary. So
happy anniversary
for a nice meal. And, you know, it'll just be nice to be in a restaurant again, surrounded by other healthy people.
Yes, it is. So enjoy the happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to getting you those. I got some Psalms gift cards to get to you so you can use those.
Absolutely.
As soon as possible. Looking forward to that. Let's see. I think I've seen this hat before, but Chris asked, what hat is that? Is that the old?
The Quebec Peaks, who became the Colorado Avalanche in, I believe, 96. And they won the Stanley Cup the first year they were in Denver.
I don't know if you wore that one on here or not then.
Probably. I've got a limited number, but I plan to add to my collection.
It sounds fun. The Pacers playoffs, sometimes we're wondering, but they are in the play-in game. They've won a few other three other last four, whatever it has been. Not a great place to be, but they're in.
Yeah, they're in. I mean, how long it'll last, who knows? You know, they could still finish as high as seventh, from what I understand. You know, Boston's in a precarious position after Jaylen Brown went down with the wrist. So they still have some things they can do. Now, they've got to play Milwaukee. They got to play the Lakers. They've got some tough games down the stretch, but they are guaranteed a spot. And frankly, I'm kind of liking this play-in tournament. It's got kind of a NCAA tournament feel to it. And, you know, there's a lot of teams at this stage of the season where it's just, you know, rest time. You know, everybody's taking the day off for, you know, a hangnail, but that's not happening now because there's a lot on the line.
Yeah. And as that continues, the draft they set up, they're kind of in the middle. Are they really going to affect themselves much in the draft on what they do here since they're already at this level?
Well, this is something that I have to ask, and maybe one of your listeners knows the answer. But if you fail to make the playoffs out of the play-in tournament, does that mean you go in the lottery? I think that it does. But don't quote me on that. And hopefully your listeners are a lot smarter than me. But I mean, I think they're better off in the lottery, honestly, because it's not like it's a total rebuild. They still got Brogdon. They still got LeVert. they got Turner, they got Sabonis, they got McConnell, they got McDermott. They have a pretty nice team, when they're healthy. But for crying out loud, they haven't been healthy for 3 years. And it's hard to know what they've got exactly. But I would suspect that, Turner would probably be moved in the offseason, especially the way that Goga is developing as a player. But it's an interesting time for the Pacers because they're just sort of on that ragged edge where do you rebuild and retool, or do you kind of run it back with the guys that you have and hope like hell they stay healthy?
If that's the case, then losing in the play-in would be preferable to them. So what team is a better matchup for the Pacers to play for them to not win, I guess?
Well, the play-in teams are all, they all have the tiebreaker over the Pacers, so they'll all play at home. Not that matters as much as it used to, and the Pacers are terrible at home. I think they're 15-22 at home. First time in a million years they've had a losing home record. But I think Charlotte's tough with LaMelo Ball coming back. Boston's obviously in trouble without Jaylen Brown. Washington probably is the best team for them to play if they're going to lose, because you got to think Bradley Beal will be back. Washington's beaten them 3 times in a row. And so if you're rooting for the Pacers to lose, you probably want Washington.
Yeah, the Pacers are 13-21 at home, and 20-15 on the road.
It's inexplicable, but it's a weird year. None of the normal numbers really hold up. And I remember talking to Kevin Pritchard a couple of weeks ago for a story I did in The Athletic, and he was saying that, it's been a really rough season. It's been a real challenge in terms of mental health, not only for the Pacers, but for all teams. But, being cheered at home is a salve of sorts. It makes you feel good about yourself. And I think they really miss it. Not that the Pacers sell out all the time, but I think this is a team that really misses its home court advantage.
Yeah, because when they're, well, like any team, but when they're rolling, their fans are loud and proud. It's a fun play, just like the Colts. It's a great crowd. They have a great home crowd, both of those organizations.
They do, and it's sorely missed. I don't think the Pacers have had as much fun. In fact, I know they haven't had very much fun this year between what's going on with Nate Bjorkgren, some of the internal stuff that we saw play out with Goga and the assistant coach against Sacramento. So, home court would be helpful, believe me.
Let's see. We've got the Preakness coming up on Saturday. I mentioned it because of Bob Baffert and the Derby. The horse is cleared to run. I don't think Baffert is going to be there. I can't recall, but it's kind of a weird situation. But I was wondering if we're going to have 2 years in a row of the Derby horse winner being taken down, which would have been incredible. But doesn't appear to be the case, I guess. But still a little bit of buzz. We don't talk a lot about horse racing, but it's that time of year.
Well, he came up with all these bizarro excuses about a trainer urinating on the hay, and the trainer had taken cold medicine, and that's how the horse, just a bunch of garbage. And then he went on Fox and talked about cancel culture, which to me just means consequences. Cancel culture involving a horse. So, give me a break. So, I'm not going to watch it. It doesn't hold much interest for me. I hope he finishes last. It's just, it's a dirty sport. A lot of sports are dirty, but, they just remind these horses, Baffert's horses remind me of the Russian Olympic athletes, You don't know who's doing what.
And that's a shame, because it used to be, well, I don't know if it was ever, maybe it was just not as dirty, but it was probably every sport has always been dirty, I guess, if you think about it. You go back to baseball with the spitter and everything they're doing to baseballs, and whether it's basketball when they're just beating the crap out of each other, and football, little 60s games. It's just sports are some wacky stuff, man.
Yeah, everybody's looking for an edge. You would hope that the culture has changed some, but I don't think that it has. I'm not sure that performance enhancing drugs are quite as big of a deal in the major American sports as they used to be. But I did something with Lily King, which will come out here in mid-April, probably late April or late May, excuse me. And they know every Russian athlete is doping, or most of them, and it's hard to go into those competitions knowing that your competition has an artificial advantage.
Yeah, it is. Indy practice starts on Tuesday. There's that. So the month of May, full of all kinds of stuff. Jimmy Johnson, I don't think he's running that this year. I do not believe, but interesting to see that that's coming on. Chris says I missed that one. Here's an old rodeo saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah, well.
that only goes so far.
Yeah, only in golf.
Hey, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back to talk more with Bob Kravitz, see what he's got going for you to read about in The Athletic. Right after this, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
Whether you're looking for a relaxing night with...
Oh, man, I meant to tell a NASCAR. Yeah, the NASCAR story. I heard. They used to put, in qualifying, they would fill their empty portions of the frame with lead and drill holes in it. So then when they were running around the track, all the lead would fall out and the cars would be much lighter and much faster after qualifying, because they had to weigh them at the beginning of qualifying. They didn't do anything after it back then. So they would just drill the hose, let the lead fall out, and just get faster.
That's funny.
I mean, it's just crazy. All the cheating stories and everybody can always find a way. It's amazing.
Isn't Jimmy Johnson going to take a run at the 500? I thought he was.
Oh yeah, he is. I don't think this one. I don't know if he's going to try to qualify for this one. He's going to for the Indy Series.
Right.
He's going to run the Indy Series. I don't know that he's ready I don't know that he's trying to qualify for this Indy. I have to look that up.
I'm not sure myself.
What do you have coming up?
Well, I'm talking to Tamika Catchings today. She's going to the Hall of Fame on Saturday. I don't know if it's a virtual thing that they're doing or not. I don't know if it's in person. But I got Tamika. I got a long story on Willie T. Ribs coming up. It's the 30th anniversary.
Willie T. Ribs.
Yeah, the color barrier being broken at IMS. I
remember that.
AJ Foyt. So I don't have a lot of stories in the next couple of days, but I got a bunch for down the road.
What's Willie T. Ribs doing now?
He's still doing some racing. He just had a really good documentary come out. So he's promoting the hell out of that. And he's just being Willie T. Ribs, he's just being a celebrity.
I was going to say, well, I met him 30 years ago. I was just a young punk, just right out of college, whatever, still maybe in, but he just seemed really arrogant. I don't know. I have that memory of him.
Yeah, he was Ali-like, In fact,
and I'm like, dude, you ain't done jack.
The name of the documentary is Uppity.
That's exactly. I met him once, and that's exactly how I remember him. It's amazing. The Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty, Indy Home Pros.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic joining me as he does. Indiana, we talked earlier about everything's opening up a little bit, Bob. Visits now. Indiana has a football visit scheduled with, well, no, not a football visit. Well, they do, actually. Then there's also this kid from USC that's a potential transfer. You know, that's getting a guy like Delon McCullough from a Super Bowl team. That is exactly the kind of things that you expect to happen if this kid ends up coming to Indiana after 3 years at USC. That does not happen before.
No. And Tom Allen's taking this to a whole new level. The question is, you know, with the rules and with the guys being able to stay for another year of eligibility, how does that work into your plans for you know, getting guys into Indiana? How does that affect your recruiting? You know, because you don't know at this point, and I don't think a lot of the players know whether they're going to take advantage of the additional year. So it's going to be a very trying time, I think, for Tom Allen and for all college coaches in all sports.
Yeah, we talked about that with Tom yesterday. It's because those poor freshmen, or seniors that are coming out of high school, there's may not be a spot for them if a guy stays, whether he stays or not. So it's so much roster management craziness that Tom acknowledged that they're going to have to go through. Indiana basketball also getting a scheduled visit from Philip Kowski, big 6'10" kid from up in the Northeast. A place they don't normally get recruits from, but this is a guy that referenced in talking to Mike Woodson, his ability to reach in and talk to these NBA guys, and having seen tape that Mike Woodson showed him of Julius Randle and how they would use him, it's having an impact on these guys really quickly.
Well, guys want to know, can you get them to the league? That's what they want to know, you know, and most of them are being patently unrealistic, but that's what guys want to know. And Mike Woodson, having coached in the NBA for over 30 years, he knows what it takes. And, you know, he used that approach with Trace Jackson Davis and all, you know, and the other kids who came back, but especially Trace. I thought that was genius, showing Trace all the things that he does not do well. And I think that really resonated with him and his father.
Yeah, because a lot of coaches, particularly a younger coach, may not have had the confidence or the awareness to do that.
Absolutely. They want to you know,
be their friend.
Rah film. You know, they want them to feel good about themselves and look at all the things I can do at Indiana. No, you know, Woodson said, and look, we've all watched Trace, wonderful player. Is he ready for the NBA? No. You know, I mean, if he had gone to the NBA, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. He'd be practicing against adults. He would have been getting the best coaching in the world. They would have shaped him. But, you know, you look at Carson, you look at Romeo, you know, they're playing, you know, in Maine and what have you. I think this kid made a really smart decision, and it helps that financially he's in a situation where, you know, he can hold off on the paycheck for 1 year.
And I think that it benefits kids coming from a program that is successful. And Indiana used to be that. And I think that they get back to that. But when you're coming from an Indiana of the past or a Duke or those type of programs, you get more looks, you get more attention. It's just a natural thing.
Yeah, to some degree, I would agree with that. I mean, you know, the kid Edwards came from a Georgia program that wasn't very good, and he got drafted wherever he got drafted. So it's not always the case. I mean,
they'll find you.
What's that?
I said they'll definitely find you.
They'll find you. I mean, Ben Simmons, they didn't go to the NCAA tournament, and he was the number one pick. So I think if you have the talent, these guys know where you are.
Yeah, well, Ben Simmons, I think he would have been maybe, but he would have he got more money going to – he may have gotten more money going to LSU first than he would have gone to the NBA route. Let's see. A comment from Denny Love. IUSB would enjoy some time dedicated to IU women's basketball. Well, season's over, but yes, they had a great run. Look forward to talking about them next year and continued success for them as we do. So, but yeah, we'll look forward to doing that. You have, let's see, what I talked about coming up. Oh, yeah, Tamika Catchings going into the Hall of Fame.
Yes, talking to Tamika today at 1 o'clock. One of my favorite people and one of the most important people we have in the sports world here in Indiana, not just for what she's done on the floor, but what she's done off the floor. Just a great, great person. We've had some long conversations when we've been overseas, when she's been at the Olympics, and somebody I really like, and she's being inducted with Kobe and Duncan and a lot of other great people this Saturday. I do not know if it's a virtual deal or if they're actually going to Springfield, but I'll find that out. But yeah, I'm going to write about her for tomorrow. I've got a couple of long pieces, one on Willie T. Ribbs. It's 30 years since he broke the color barrier at Indianapolis Motor Speedway and ran in the Indianapolis 500. Not for long. His engine blew just a few laps into the race. I'm also doing something on AJ Foyt, who 60 years ago won the first of his 4 Indianapolis 500 championships.
Crazy. I love that old historical stuff. I've been watching some NASCAR stuff, and it's historical, and just and AJ Foyt and all Mario Andretti talking about him winning the Daytona 500 in '67. Right. Just some fascinating stuff. How he went to this team and he wasn't getting the equipment, and he's like, "Hey, I'm not getting the same stuff here." And once he got that worked out, he started kicking their butts and held him in the pits once. It's just great stuff. Fun to watch, but make sure you go to The Athletic and follow Bob for that. Be a subscriber. I am. It's great content for that. For anything that you're looking for.
Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Let's see. We had a question earlier. Sean says Tony Kanaan is running in place of Jimmy Johnson for the 500. Jimmy is avoiding ovals for now.
Right.
So I remember that now.
Thank you for the update.
So that's a great documentary. One of only 2 African Americans to run in the 500. So there's that.
George Mack is the other.
I didn't know that. Tom Allen still only has 2 commitments. Is that a worry?
Well, again, because he doesn't know who's coming back yet. Yeah. So short term, maybe it's a worry. Now, if we come back several months from now and he's still got 2 commitments, that's an issue. But right now, with guys getting that extra year of eligibility, I don't see it as a great reason for concern.
I don't either, because I think a lot of kids are holding out because of that. They don't know where they're going exactly. or what their opportunities are going to be. It's a nutty thing that we're going to have to deal with. David says that getting to the NBA was one of the things that Xavier Johnson spoke about when he chose IU. Xavier was on with us yesterday. And yeah, he mentioned asking why he came here, and that's getting to play with Trey Saxon Davis. A big. He said he had not played with a talented big in college since high school, maybe.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's right. I mean, he was the best player on a bad Pitt team, and he did not have a lot of help. And presumably he'll have that help, and presumably he'll provide that help, because he's an up-tempo guy, from what I understand. I have not seen him play. But just reading what I've read about him, he's a guy who likes to get the ball up the floor quickly. And I can see him and I think Christian Lander is going to make a big jump here in his second year.
Oh, well, absolutely, because I think he's going to have the development tools given to him and not forced upon him, but pushed. He's going to be pushed in the right direction of where he should be pushed and given the tools to help develop the talents that he already has. Because it looks like he was not, it was like he was just left out there alone is what it kind of looked like. But he's going to have a veteran, and Xavier, he broke a 34-year freshman scoring record at Pitt. That's yeah. So that's. I mean, Indiana needs that. You know, you lose your scoring guard, but I think they've gained.
We'll find out. You know, I mean, it's funny. You know, all these guys coming in, they all sound good on paper. Let's see how they play. But he did break a very long-standing record that was set by Charles Smith, who you remember from the Knicks and some other teams. So he's got to have some talent. And after watching the guard play that we've watched at Indiana the last couple of years, you almost have to think he's going to be an upgrade.
Absolutely. And last thing how about men's soccer? Indiana men's soccer going to their 21st College Cup, looking for title number 9 this Friday. You're starting that quest.
Hang the banner, baby. I think it's great. Jerry Yeagley, when he was there, was very involved with the hockey program that I played for.
Oh, and wow.
He was very, very supportive, came to some of our games, and I got to know him just a little bit. And, of course, you know, his son is doing great things now, and I'm rooting for him, man. It's, you know, we need all the banners we can get.
Where did you play hockey, Bob?
I played at IU.
I did not know that. Oh, my.
Yeah.
Okay. Bearing the lead on me. All right. Well, that's the next week discussion. I can't wait to bust that one out.
There you go.
Oh, man. I used to have an IU jersey a hockey jersey I picked up on eBay somewhere. I don't have it anymore. I should have kept that. Man, I can't wait. Boy, I hate to end the show like that. It's going to leave me wanting more. That's okay, though. Man, make sure you give Bob Kravitz a follow at The Athletic. He's got a great story of Tamika Catchings coming up. Bob, I can't thank you enough, brother.
Hey, man. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to doing it again next week. Thank you guys most of all. Without you, there's nothing for us to do. Make sure you go out and do something nice for somebody. Make sure you wear your mask. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.